Now, I am torn about this album. I mean, let's just get it out of the way. This album is bad. I mean, it's terrible. I had some hope after listening to Doris, and I actually liked that song. I know a lot of people didn't. I know that tee-hee meme, whatever it is, but I kind of actually liked it, and I admired them for trying something different, and I kind of had a little bit of hope for this album. The second song, as I reviewed, Silence, I did not like as much, or not at all, because it was fucking awful. But the album is just... Doris is probably the best song off this album. I mean, that's what I can say about it. And that should tell you everything you need to know right off the bat. It's so awful. And I mean, the reason I'm torn is because there's different kinds of bad. I mean, there's the bad that kind of offends on all levels, offends every sense, even ones you didn't know that you actually had. There's bad that's just mediocre bad, where there's no effort whatsoever. Then there's this. I mean, it's just, it's so bad. But they tried. They did try to do something. They're not trying to stay stuck in the past with Suicide Silence. They are trying to push themselves forward a little bit. You can absolutely hear that, but nothing works on this album. I mean, it's not what I would call necessarily experimental in the sense that it's not bringing in weird music or sounds or instruments or anything like that. It's not doing weird time signatures. It's still kind of deathcore. I can't even call it that at this point. They've definitely changed their style. It's more of a post-hardcore kind of sound to it, but it's just, it absolutely doesn't work. I mean, one thing that I've generally criticized this band for is definitely staying stuck in the past and sticking with their same old routine. I mean, especially after the unfortunate death of Mitch Lucker, the follow-up album that they first did was just sounds like a rehash of their first album. And it wasn't that good just for that reason. It felt like they weren't trying anything. There was no effort in there. This album is a completely different beast in the sense that they definitely tried. They tried to do something, but it just doesn't work what they've tried. I mean, I can't even express this album. I mean, speaking of trying, I had to try to get through these songs. That's not a good thing. I shouldn't have to force myself to listen to these songs. I mean, I can listen to Doris straight through, and I keep mentioning that because really, that's about the besides the fact that they tried, is really the only positive thing on this album. I mean, some of these songs are just completely unlistenable. You cannot. If you can get through them, you deserve some sort of medal because, I mean, they're just awful in general. I mean, there's definitely something there, at least, that they were going for. I mean, a little bit of evidence of them trying is on the song Run, for instance, but the song Conformity just sounds like they wanted to try something kind of proggy, and it just, no, it failed horribly. And overall, the other issue with this album is absolutely the production, particularly with the vocal work, especially. I mean, it literally just sounds like they went into a garage somewhere and just did track after track and just recorded to somebody's like Walkman or Talkboy, and that's what we get. There's nothing on here that they tried to elevate or do anything with. And I mean, that can be a good thing. Sometimes being that kind of pure and rawness can actually work in a band's favor, but not here. They needed to do something. And overall, the vocal work, it sounds like it's his first take doing it, and he sounds strained on it. I mean, I don't know exactly what it was that they were actually going for here on this. And you know, there's always going to be that controversy with this band as far as should they have continued with the name Suicide Silence. But at this point, I kind of have to agree with the people who think they should change their name, especially with the fact that they seem like they're trying to push away from that sound and what we know as being Suicide Silence, so much so that it is a completely different band at this point. I really think they it's time to change the name. I'm glad they aren't chained to the sound. I mean, this album shows that they aren't necessarily trying to just be Suicide Silence 2.0, for instance, but they're not trying to be Suicide Silence at all at this point with this album, as they've demonstrated. And I think it is time to either give up or change the name. I mean, again, I feel torn because I want to commend a band for trying something, especially when you have such a rabid fan base like that, and the tragedy surrounding this band, that it's hard to do something like that because you don't want to really piss anybody off or anything like that. But at the same time, it just didn't work at all. I mean, this album is almost insufferable in a lot of ways to listen to, and that's again why I feel torn, because it's not bad in the sense that it's a miserable album in any way. It's just just any idea that they had, that they were willing to try and willing to push themselves, which again is commendable, just doesn't formulate on here. It doesn't work. This album, I mean, if you're a Suicide Silence fan, if you're a deathcore fan, if you're a casual listener, whatever, this is not an album for you. I don't know. They tried something. They tried to experiment. They tried something. It didn't work. It's time to move on. So if you have heard the new Suicide Silence album, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more.